Welcome to Life Stories Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Viviane, and I'm a doula, breastfeeding specialist, and a mama coach. And I talk about everything related to preconception, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and everything in between. So if you're a parent or you're trying to be one, this show is definitely for you, so stay tuned. Today I'm talking to Marieke and Baas, who is a mama and a certified sleep coach. And you guessed it, we're going to talk about her amazing motherhood journey and how she tackled sleeping and breastfeeding. So we're going to talk a lot about bed sharing, co-sleeping, sleep training, and what those terms mean for real. So stay tuned. I'm very excited for this. If you've seen some of my previous episodes and you like the show, please hit the subscribe button now so me and you can share Marike's awareness on sleep training together. This podcast is sponsored by Perfecta Placenta, located in Beverly Hills, which is a placenta preserving company. So if you would like your miracle organ to be preserved and get a diaper bag and a stretch mark cream as a gift from me, don't forget to use my promo code DoulaViviane at the checkout. And for more information, I can be reached either via Instagram under my name, DoulaViviane, or via my Gmail address, which is birthforviviane@gmail.com. Without more chit chat from me, let's talk to Marieke. Hi, Marieke. It's so good to have you. This has been so much overdue. I'm very excited to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I briefly just mentioned that you're a mom, you're a sleep coach, but please tell us who you are again and what made you become a sleep coach. What changed?
Yeah. So what changed basically was having my daughter. So more than 2 years ago now, I had my first daughter, and she was sleeping super, super well in the first 3 months in the newborn phase. And I remember my husband and I being so proud of her. Like, oh, she's such a good sleeper. Like, I mean, it was based on nothing as well. It's just like, what people assume that the baby should sleep like, I guess.
Yeah.
And then she turned 4 months and she completely stopped sleeping.
Oh,
um, so yeah, it was difficult. So she was only wanting to sleep on me. So every day I had her either on the boob or in the carrier during the day. And at night she would fall asleep on the boob, and then I could actually put her back in her co-sleeper. But she started to wake up like every 2 hours, every 1 hour sometimes. Um, so it was a really difficult time because I was so happy being a mom, but my energy just started to, drain, and I felt like I couldn't really be the mom that I wanted to be. So we realized we had to do something about her sleep because, like, it was obviously not the way it was supposed to be. Also, not for her, right? So um, we I started to ask my friends and family, everyone with kids, basically, like, help, what should I do?
yeah.
Um, but nobody could really help us. Like, everyone had some tips or like what worked for them, or but it wasn't very coherent. And I felt like even what you read online, there's so much information out there, but then like just to find the things that work for us, like it just didn't, like, it was really hard, especially because I was so tired. I
Yeah.
didn't have time to read books or like to it was just not that was not happening. So we in the end decided to sleep train our daughter when she was, I think, 5.5 months old, maybe 6, and that difference was so big. Like, within 3 days she was sleeping normally through the night with only one feed, which she still needed then, and she was sleeping during the day on her own for a longer period of times, and that was literally within 3 days. And like, I was so confused because like, how did this happen so fast? Like, wow, like, it's really helping, and it's helping her, it's helping me, it's helping us as a family. And that just really sparked something in me. Like, I was really intrigued by baby sleep. So I decided to do a certification to become a baby sleep coach, just to help other parents, because I feel like there's not enough information to parents that are pregnant about baby sleep, because you learn so much. You learn about whatever. Even at the pediatrician, I asked when she was already born about sleep, and the pediatrician couldn't help me. She was like, "Well, like,
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and that was so I'm really passionate just to share like information about baby sleep to help other parents not to be tired and to and it's also so many benefits for the baby itself if they actually sleep well. Like it's just important. Sleep is,
I
important.
agree. We sleep a lot as humans.
Yes.
I think it's 1/3 of our whole life that we spend sleeping. But I need to ask you. So it's a big hot topic, and I'm sure you know. You mentioned the word sleep train. A lot of parents, a lot of people out there, who are just finding out about this, like there is someone like a sleep coach. We can hire someone to help us sleep better and our baby. Um, come with the phrase sleep training.
Hmm.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that? Because there is a lot of controversy going on about that.
Yeah. I think the main controversy is that a lot of people think that sleep training really means putting your child in bed, closing the door, and never ever coming back. And that's called the cry it out method. And that is really not what sleep training is. Because I think closing the door and walking away is not really a method. It's just closing the door and leaving your child by themselves, which I think it's one of the worst things you can do because you're not helping them, you're not teaching them anything, right? So sleep training, according my values and my ideals, is helping your child to learn the skill of sleep. So sleep is really a skill, and that was something I never knew when I had my daughter. I never knew that sleep is actually a skill. So it's something they need to learn. Just like you learn how to walk and they learn how to eat solids. They also need to learn how to sleep. And for some babies, it goes quite smoothly. They can do it by themselves, but other babies really need some help with that. And I think just realizing that sleep is actually a skill really helped me to kind of change that mindset as well. Like she does need help with learning how to fall asleep, right? And it's not something she will get over because that's what a lot of parents also think. It's just a phase, she will learn, and often they won't because if they haven't learned by themselves around like 4, 5, 6 months, it's really hard for them to actually teach themselves later on as well. Um, so sleep training really is teaching the skill of sleep, and for me, it's really important to do this in a very gentle way that really fits with the baby and fits with the parents. Like every family is different, every baby is different, so there's not one method that suits them all. It's different for everyone. It's different for every situation, and that's what I also love about it because it's kind of like a little puzzle, and you put all the pieces together, and then whoop, they can sleep. Um, yeah, so it's completely yeah, there will be tears, right? It's every time you learn a baby a new skill, whatever it is, something is changing and that's confusing for them, so there will be tears, but my aim is obviously to have as less tears as possible and to make it really comfortable, also for the parents.
I love how you're talking. You're saying so many things that are resonating with me. And just for me to pop in real quick, I really like that when you said, like, walking out of the room, that's really not a method. You're not teaching them anything. The only thing I believe that you are teaching them, that you are letting them know, is that you are abandoning them in some
Yeah.
sort, leaving them to literally figure it out for themselves when they even don't know what they're supposed to figure out. Like you
Yeah.
said, sleep is a skill, breastfeeding is a skill. We all have it in us. We have the tools, but we usually don't have the manual. That's why baby mother diet, the couple, they should spend a lot of time together to figure it out because they know each other for 9 months, they see each other, and it's a whole new thing, right? It's a whole new beast to conquer. So I do believe that, like you said, spending time, and like you said, there will be tears because that is another thing that really came up for me, is that our brain doesn't like change, no
Mm.
matter what it is, even if it's for the better. And that goes for adults too. Like if we want to quit smoking, we know it's bad for us. We want to stop,
Mm.
but it's very hard. That's why losing weight is hard. It's quit smoking is hard because we need to be consciously and all the time, we need to be aware of what is triggering this. Why do I need to eat right now? Is it am I substituting for my emotions, or what is
Mm.
it? And it's the same with sleep, right? And the longer this goes on, the unhealthy habit or not having it learned,
Yeah.
skill, the harder it is for the brain and the longer it takes
Yeah.
to change. So yes, there will be refusal. And unfortunately, babies don't speak. So the only way they can speak is
Yeah.
crying. So it's not necessarily a bad sign. I would say tears are a good sign that, okay, there is some refusal going on. There is some denial from the brain that the brain wants it to be like it was, but this is good. We're moving forward. So
Yeah.
it's to stay consistent, I would say.
Yeah, no, consistency is one of the biggest things of sleep training, really. And I think that's if parents sometimes they tried something on their own, a method that they read online or something, and that then doesn't work because it's so hard for them to remain consistent because they're never 100% sure about it, right? Because if you read it yourself, in a book or whatever, you're maybe not sure if you really do it right because nobody's telling you like, hey, it's going well, and then it's really hard to remain consistent because if they are crying, like nobody wants to hear their baby cry. I don't like hearing babies cry. If I'm on home consult, so the babies are learning and they're crying, like it's not fun to hear them cry. So for moms, often after a while, they're like, see, they're still crying. I'm gonna give up, and that's where consistency is so important to show your baby like, hey, this is really how we're doing it, and you can do it in so a loving way, without them feeling abandoned and without them feeling like lost and alone, but still teaching them so well, and it's a skill they will use for the rest of their lives, basically.
Exactly. I agree. It's like meditation. It's like doing yoga almost to learn and get better and then teaching others as well.
Yeah.
And- But yes, you're right. Crying is really not a pleasant sound. And I read somewhere a study says that it's equivalent to physical torture. That's how our body reacts, a mother's body reacts to
Yeah.
her baby cry. She's obviously not being tortured, but the body is
Yeah.
experiencing those same or very similar physical and emotional responses a tortured person would. So it's very powerful. Like crying is here to, when babies cry, they want to tell us something, obviously. And there's many different types of cries.
Mm.
I understand that it can be hard. And again, you don't have that professional next to you. You don't have someone to tell you, okay, this is a good method. I think this would work for your family and your baby. Keep consistent. You're doing a great job. I know it's hard, but keep pushing. You're doing great. If they don't have this person to tell to
Yeah.
this, it's very hard to keep going because like you said, you keep questioning yourself. She's crying. Am I doing even the right thing? I don't want her to cry. And then you go in and the whole process essentially stops and you have to start again.
Yeah.
And it drags on and drags on and drags on, and you are getting more tired and more tired. And as a mom, you can't pour from an empty cup. You just can't.
No, exactly. Yeah. And that's what I see so often with clients is that parents are so exhausted that it's just for them, they can't even, and the baby is exhausted too, and baby's behavior really changes as well if they're exhausted, because for them they're also drained and they're also tired. um, so you see often a lot of behavioral changes after sleeping goes well, which is it's really lovely to see, how much it influences everything, basically.
Absolutely. And like you said, babies, again, I'm coming back to it. We have to learn that. We have to learn to coexist. And in the womb, it was dark. There was no circadian rhythm. There was no day and night.
Mm.
When they wanted to, and now they're out and there's sun and there's fog and there's clouds and all these changes. And yeah, I mean, the site is not even developed in the first couple months of
Yeah.
life. So that's also, I think, a huge co-factor into this. But my question is, Marieke, can you make this work with breastfeeding or when someone wants to co-sleep? Can this work?
Yes, definitely. Babies really need about until they're 9 months, they still need a feed at night. Like that's very, very normal. 1 or 2 feeds at night until 9 months. It's naturally kind of needed because their stomachs are just not big enough, basically, to go without that feed. And every baby is different. So some babies don't need it anymore after like 6 months. Some even stop at 5 months. But in general, until 9 months, if they don't drop it themselves, you really do need to give them like 1 or 2 feeds, and that's completely natural. Um, doesn't mean that they don't sleep well. It's you need to kind of separate the feed from the sleep. So as long as the baby is able to fall asleep by themselves, you can feed them and then just put them back in bed awake, and they will fall asleep again by themselves. So they don't need you again when they wake up for any other reason, really. So it's definitely, I know a lot of moms think like, oh, but if I start sleep training, I need to stop breastfeeding, and I really don't want to do that. It's really not true. And I don't really, it's really sad for me to think how many moms stop breastfeeding just because they hope that their child will sleep better. It's really not related. Like, yes, often babies have an association of feeds with sleep because that's very naturally from the newborn phase. I did that with my daughter as well. In a newborn phase, you're feeding them to sleep and they're so cute, and look at them, they're falling asleep, and that's all fine. And then you don't know how to get them to sleep differently when they move to like an older phase. So it's very natural for moms to kind of take this way of having them fall asleep along. But the whole idea of sleep training is teaching them how to sleep on their own. So then you can still feed them and they're just able to fall asleep by themselves, right? And it's so important for me that, if a mom wants to continue breastfeeding at night, but the baby is already 2 years old, like I don't see a problem there. Like breastfeeding is such a important factor of comfort, and it's so intense between a mom and a baby. So if neither of them are ready to give it up, there's definitely no need to ever stop breastfeeding if you feel that that's what you need to do with your child. And you could still work on sleep together. And that's the beauty of it, I think. You can do both, definitely. The same goes for co-sleeping. Actually, if you look at research done on having your baby in your room, the American Association of Pediatrics, which is kind of like the WHO but then for kids, they recommend to room share with your child until they're 1, because there's so many benefits of sharing a room together. Especially when they're really, really tiny. So I actually, up until 6 months, it really helps to prevent SIDS, so the sudden infant death. Because the baby mimics mom's breathing, it mimics mom's sleeping cycles, and they really get like connected together, which helps the baby to, sometimes if their mechanism hasn't developed completely yet, they will breathe like mom does, and it really helps them. Which is, I think it's beautiful to sleep together in a room, as long as the baby has their own sleep surface. So you have to make sure that the baby has their own, like co-sleeping. Like you can buy those like cool co-sleepers that you can actually put next to your bed and they're attached to you, but it's their baby's own space. And this is super safe. It's super nice, and you have the baby next to you. So it also makes for a beautiful attachment between the mom or the parents actually and the baby. Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned co-sleeping, you mentioned room sharing. Um, there is also something called bed sharing. Can you tell us the difference between this? Because I know there is, again, a parent to be or a first time mom, she looks at this and like, which
Yeah.
one am I doing? Which one is the best? Which one is not safe? And then there comes in Sid, like, oh my gosh, what is that? Because
Yeah.
not a lot of people know. So tell us, please. What is?
Yes, that's a good question. It becomes so normal for me that I sometimes forget, like, these art terms. Yeah. So room sharing means that the baby is in your room, but really in their own cot or crib. So they're separate from your bed, but they're in the same room. Co-sleeping means that the baby is attached to your bed, but they have their own space. So, those co-sleepers or even the cots where you can remove one side and then they're attached to the mattress, that's co-sleeping. Bed sharing means when you have your baby in the bed with you. And that last one, I will not be able to recommend because it's actually quite dangerous to have the baby in the bed with you. And often parents tend to have this just because they're so exhausted and they don't know anymore. And the baby falls asleep on the boob and it's just easier. And I understand that 100%. But the problem with bed sharing is that it's quite dangerous if you look at safe sleep. The baby could, suffocate. It's not really a nice topic to talk about, but it's so important. Baby could suffocate with the pillows or the blankets or in between the mattress and the wall, or even by parents. And that's just something to be really careful with. It's one of the main factors that could prevent SIDS. So SIDS means sudden infant death syndrome. And that happens when a baby below 6 months old dies from basically no reason in their sleep. And a lot of research recently has been done on this, which is really helpful, which is really good as well, because often they're just like get this, if a baby dies and they don't know why and it was in their sleep, they get kind of the stamp of like, this was SIDS, right? Because we can't find any way, we don't know why they died. Research now shows that oftentimes these babies internally develop a bit slower. So it's harder for their brains to kind of tell their mouth, for example, hey, something is, blocking your mouth, you need to turn your face. Mm-hmm. And often this will, it will develop, and after 6 months, they're completely safe and they're able to sleep, safe wise. But as a parent, you don't know if your child is a little bit underdeveloped in whatever area. So that's why it's really important to the factors that you can influence, like not having them in bed, not giving them a pillow, not giving them a blanket, making sure their environment is super clean, no toys, nothing that can block them, they cannot get stuck, because you're never 100% sure they don't have this little part not developed yet. So that's
It's our instinct as parents, as mothers, right, to make it comfortable, to make it soft and and pillowy, blankety. But really, it is no flat, basic, just a mattress, and that's it. That's what you do the best job by just doing that.
I know, and it's you're right. Like it's often so fun as well to like make the baby's room cozy with everything. But even those cut bumpers that you can put attached to your cot to make it look whatever nice, even those are very dangerous because they could still have their mouth against that. So the best thing you can do is just have it as empty as possible, flat surface, and the baby on their backs, and that's actually the best way to have them sleep.
Yes. Thank you so much for explaining, Marieke. Can I ask you, which method did you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we chose a very gentle method, of course, because she was also very young. If I would have to sleep train her now, I would choose something else because she's quite independent. So she needs a little bit more of self, try it out herself. But then she was like 5.5, 6 months old. So we did a method called gradual withdrawal. And basically what you do is you first sit with her. So you sit next to the crib. And then There are certain ways that you can help her to understand that she needs to fall asleep by herself, but you're always next to her or next to them. And then when that goes well, so when they're actually able to fall asleep without the parent touching them, they can move a little bit further. So it's literally, you literally withdraw yourself physically from them, but they will still be able to see you and to hear you. And that's so beautiful about it, because you're really slowly creating that learning space and that distance. So over time, you're like creating more and more space, and then at some point you don't have to be there anymore, because they trust that you will always be there, and they are able to fall asleep. And it's just a very lovely and gentle way to do it.
That's amazing. And it gives the time to adjust
Yeah.
that someone is still here, but they're moving a little bit further to the door. And it's a really nice way of showing them, I'm here, but this is also your space.
Yeah.
And we are expecting you to fall asleep now and take some rest. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
And we did it when she was still with us in the room anyway. So, you know, at night she would still feel we're there. I'm very much for room sharing. I really like it. We did it with our daughter until she was, I think, 16 months. And then it was really time. But
Nice. So was she ready when that change happened? Because that's another thing parents struggle with, that they room share or they co-sleep and or even bed share. And then it's ready, you know, to move to a different room. And that's where a lot of parents just stall and just keep it going for 2, 3, 4 years because they just don't know how. And obviously the longer you go, the harder change. So do you have any tips for the transition from one room, from a, you know, common
parents' room
to their separate room?
That's a very good one. Honestly, often it's more daunting for the parents than it is for the child. You know, once your child knows how to sleep, so let's assume that, you know, they're able to fall asleep on their own, they're sleeping really beautiful by themselves. If they know how to sleep, they also know how to sleep in their own room. But especially for moms, you know, it's another step of having to, you know, again, create more distance somehow between you and your baby. And it can be so hard. Like, it was really hard for me as well. The same goes when you stop with breastfeeding. You know, it's suddenly you don't have that connection anymore, and that's quite difficult emotionally. But it's often children, most children really need to find that independence, whereas for moms it's really hard to kind of have to let go. You know, they're born, and from the moment they're born, you already have to start letting go more, and it can be rough, you know. So often for parents it's really a big deal, but for kids it's not really.
Yeah.
Especially, so what you can do though to make the transition easier is have them play in the room during the day to create like positive energy with the room. You know, if you only use the room for sleeping, they might not like it that much. They don't know the space, you know, they don't have that positive feelings with the room. So it's really powerful to just for a couple of days have them play in their room. They can have fun there, you know, anything really. And then for them, the room feels good, you know, and it's easy. And what you could do for the first couple of nights is leave the door open, or you can put the baby monitor there so you can actually see them. And you can actually, if you've already sleep trained your child, you can always go back to that method. Even if the baby doesn't really need it, you can still sit next to them for a while, see how they fall asleep, and then often parents are like, okay, you know, it's actually going well, so we don't have to worry. The really important thing here is that if you do it, you have to do it for and naps and bedtime, everything at once. Because if you think like we're gonna do it slowly, we transition them slowly. So first we do naps, and then if that goes well, we do bedtime. That's not so consistent for the child. You know, the child will get confused, like, hey, I was sleeping in that room for the naps. Yeah, but now I'm here again. Like, why?
Yeah.
So it's always better to do it at once and then do it well and be consistent with it. Give them some time to get used to the room and give yourself some space, like some emotional space, you know, to let them go. That's like a big thing.
And we as parents, we are great at overthinking everything. Like we're great. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I children don't even have those type of thoughts, because they are still learning things, so there is the tendency to overthink is very limited. And they must be bamboozled by us sometimes. Why? What is happening?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Definitely right. And even if it's hard for us, I think what we need to do as parents is to come to terms with it for us. And then once we're ready emotionally and psychologically and physically, then present the idea to the child, because
yeah,
once it's presented, we need to be consistent. And if we back out because we are struck with
yeah,
it, it can be very confusing with the for the infant or toddler, or
yeah,
depending on the age of the child. So I agree.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's I think as a parent you really need to make sure you're ready, because that's if you're not ready and you're very insecure about that, your child will see that as well. You know, if you're confident and you're super excited about it, they will be confident and super excited about it. But if I'm like, okay, so we're gonna try tonight to put you there. Let's see how it goes. But if it doesn't go, I can always come back. Like that doesn't help them, because that will make them confused. Like, what do you want from me? And it doesn't feel comfortable for them because they know that you're not comfortable. You know, they mimic you in everything you do. So if you feel not ready as a parent, then it doesn't matter. They can still stay in your room. Like,
Just
you know,
don't do it.
it's
You're not
there's
ready.
no yeah, there's no right or wrong here. Like, and that's what I always try to tell my clients as well. It's whatever makes you comfortable. It doesn't matter if your mother-in-law tells you your child needs to have their own room. If you're still comfortable having them in your room, then that's fine. That's perfect. If everybody sleeps well and everybody's happy, then there's no problem. There's only a problem if there actually is a problem.
Exactly. And you tapped on a whole nother topic of friends and families unsolicited advice. Oh my gosh. I could talk about this for hours on end because
Yeah,
it's really big. And that goes also with misinformation on the internet. Everyone tells you something else. You don't even know what to do anymore. And you oftentimes tend to follow the advice of your family, even though it's not working for you.
yeah,
Just because your mom did it doesn't mean it's going to work for you, doesn't mean it's going to resonate with you. And I think the most important thing for parents to know is you don't have to do it. And I know it's easier said than done because it's very hard to have this conversation with your family or friends. I accept your opinion.
yeah,
Doing it my way, and this is how you don't like it. That's fine. You don't have to. But just as I'm accepting you, I would like for you to accept our way of
yeah,
doing it. And that's very hard to have, especially when the relationships are not good, where
mm,
there's been some, conflicts before, and now there's a baby in the relationship as well. People like to make it work because grandparents don't want to miss out. The parents don't want to miss out on grandparents missing out. So it's,
yeah,
it's an endless cycle. So I love that you mentioned this because it's very important to, as part of sleep training, focus on this aspect too,
yeah.
what to do with my relatives, because that's a legit question. I mean, I have people come to me all the time, well, I want a home birth, but my mom really does not. What do I do? It's a part of it. It's a part of that experience. It's a part of that journey that needs to be talked about because we keep mystifying it for no reason. There is no reason to mystify that.
Yeah, and it's really hard, I think, especially if you're a first-time mom. Um, you know, you just had a baby, you're hormonal, you might not really know 100% what you're doing. And then if other people start giving you advices or telling you what to do, you just think like, okay, I guess I need to do that now because you are hormonal and you might be sleep deprived. And, it starts to be hard for them sometimes to follow their own intuition. We all have that inside of us. We know what is best for you and your baby. But if everybody starts giving you those advices from nowhere, and you don't really know how to handle it, can make moms really really insecure. And of course, often people give advice with really good meanings, and they do it out of love, but it doesn't mean it fits with you, your baby, and your family. And that's something I think it's really good for parents to realize. Like, we can decide what we do, with our family and with our situation, and especially around sleep, because there's so many things people think about. How a child is supposed to sleep, or what they're supposed to be doing, or what they're not supposed to be doing, and then sometimes, if you are comfortable with the way things are going for you and your family right now, why do you need to change it?
Exactly. And like you said, there is only a problem if there is a problem. And
Exactly. Yeah.
what the modern community is creating lately in moms is that they're trying to convince them that no, you can't do it on your own. You should have help, yes,
Yeah.
from your partner and family, but you definitely know your baby the best. You know what you have it in you. You just
Yeah.
do. It's a innate intuition. And yes, some parents need help to, awaken it or be more sensitive to it, but we all have it in us. And
Yeah.
we are trying to create a problem as a community, which is very sad, because then there actually is a problem, because the mom starts doing something she's been told but doesn't really resonate with her. She doesn't feel that it's the right way, but she does it anyway because she's
Yeah.
doing it for the first time, and she's like, oh well, then they must know better than me,
Yeah.
apparently, but it's not working, so what, I'm a bad mom? Or and then the guilt and shame and sleep deprivation and, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, the hormones, and it's just a mess. It's
It
just.
all adds up. Yeah. And I think especially in the, when a baby is really tiny, so in the newborn phase, nowadays people just expect them to kind of sleep through the night and be able to sleep on their own and know what day and night is. Like, oh, they're born and they figured everything out. Like, what? you know that's not how it works. I often see people like posting online or whatever, oh, my baby is 5 weeks and they still don't sleep through the night. Like, why? What am I doing wrong? It's like, your baby is 5 weeks, like they're still figuring out life. Like, they need every 2 3 hours they need a feed. Like, that's just how they're wired. That's what they tiny stomachs need. Like, it's so difficult to tell those parents, like, the modern society made us, decide that apparently a baby should sleep on their own in their own room in a silent dark space, and they should just sleep there. What? Like, that's not natural.
Yeah, this is so interesting though, Marieke, because what is coming up for me, what you were saying is that setting realistic expectations.
Yeah.
And that is what I come across a lot. Moms have this idea of something, and it's great. I love it. I love that they're proactive, that they have a goal, they have a vision, and it's great to work on that. But let's have a contingency plan. What if this doesn't work? We want to deal with this now, not in 8 months or
Yeah.
5 months from now, because it'll just hit you. It'll hit you in the face. You will already be tired. You don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
You want to deal with it now, and I think that's part of it. Having realistic expectations, and like I said, I see it all the time, and it can wreak havoc. Really, it really can. And that the thing is that I think the worst thing is that it affects the baby, because the mom is not okay, the baby's
Yeah.
not.
Definitely. Yeah. 100%. I think it goes so hand in hand, and you see it with,
Yeah.
not only babies, but toddlers as well. Like, they really copy your emotions, and they copy, your everything you do. And it's because my daughter is now 2, and she's actually literally copying my behavior. Like, I can see her do things like just stupid stuff, but like, we're potty training her right now, and the first time she pooped on the potty, I was like, "Ah!" I was super happy, and now every time she poops, she does. And it's just those are, funny things that they're copying, but they're copying everything. And a tiny little baby also does this, and they're very sensitive to emotions, to, you know, even the atmosphere at home, you know. So if parents are not in a happy place together, even a newborn baby will already pick this up, you know. So if you're struggling as a mom with, you know, sometimes the birth could have been hard, you know, and breastfeeding is not picking up, and you know, you just have a rough start at it, um, and you're not confident as a mom, the baby will also feel this in a way. So that's what you said. It's so much better to, you know, actually then work on it directly to make everyone more comfortable. Basically, also as a mom, you need to feel confident. Like, I love being a mom, I love it, but part of it is also because, you know, I sleep, and you know, I'm very confident in what we're doing. And of course, there's a lot of things that, you know, my daughter now does, and I'm like, I don't know how to respond to this. But that's part of the journey, I think. But in general, what I want is for every mom or every parent to, you know, really enjoy it, like enjoy the journey, and, you know, feel confident. That's so important because it's such a waste as well. They grow so fast. If you know, spend the first year struggling, you and the baby, and you and your partner and the baby, you miss out on a whole year of your child.
Yeah.
That's sad.
A lot. It's like 5 years for us because they grow with the speed of light. Every
Oh,
day is different. There's something new every hour, every day. And you're so right that, you know, even like children, toddlers, they don't often listen to us, but they never fail to model us,
yeah,
like us, to mimic the emotions. And because babies can't speak and they're you know they're limited in their way of communicating with us, their other senses are very strong, like intuition, picking up on what is the how is the room feeling,
yeah.
is everyone anxious, is everyone happy, or is it mixed, how am I supposed to feel? And babies can definitely feel and emotions are contagious. If I'm happy, I can make someone else happy.
Yes.
If I feel not okay and I'm irritated, probably not a lot of people want to be around me at that point. Irritated,
Yeah.
irritated, or it's contagious, and it's hard to be aware of it all the time. And I'm not saying you have to love every moment of motherhood.
No,
I
God.
think it's healthy not to like it and admit it. I didn't like it today. I really hated this. And that's okay because you're working through, you're accepting all of your emotions. And only by accepting them, you can let them go and you can show your baby you don't have to love your life every single day of it.
Right, yeah. And emotions obviously should be there as well. Like, it's not like you should always be happy and confident in front of your baby. That's not the reality. So it's okay to, you know, have a discussion with your partner about things, but like, don't start yelling, you know, like, and it's okay to, you know, sometimes I cry because something really bad happens, and it's, you know, first I never wanted my daughter to see me cry, but then I realized, you know,
Yeah.
okay, you know, you're not supposed to be crying in front of her like every day. And hopefully nobody cries every day. But I mean, like, she is also sort of allowed to see that, you know, the world is not always happiness. And of course, we want our kids to be super happy all the time. And that's, you know, as a mom, that's the only thing you kind of want. But it's also okay for them to see that sometimes, you know, life struggles happen. Um, but yeah, definitely, I think the overall experience as a mom should be something really good. And yes, I have days that I'm just completely fed up with it and I just can't do it. But then my partner comes home and I'm just like, there you go. Have fun. And then, you know, like, you can share it. And I think that's the beauty of having a partner. Sometimes it's really necessary so I can wind down. And um, what was really important for me to feel like a good mom, you know, and to really be a happy mom was to also have some time for myself. You don't have to be with your baby 24/7 or with your child 24/7, you know, to be a good mom. Like, I really need sometimes just to have my own things. And for me, that it's okay to take a bath, you know, just to know that I have like an hour I can take a bath, my partner takes care of the baby. And that already is good enough for me. Some other people need more space and more time, and that's completely fine. Like, I think society nowadays tells us as a mom, you have to be there 24/7. But, I don't think that's correct. Like you can still be an amazing mom, but also have your own things and have your own life and have your hobbies and, be more than just a mom.
Exactly. Just because you upgraded yourself to the title that you are a mom, which is amazing, you don't have to trade your identity for it.
Yeah.
You don't have to lose yourself in the process. And I think while you're talking, one word keeps popping up in my mind, and that's the word balance.
Yeah.
Everything should be balanced. If there is balance, I think everything is so much better. Emotions, self-care versus being a mom, having, a hobby on your own, being, taking care of your child. It's all about balance. You can be
Yeah.
happy. You can be also being sad all the time is not good, obviously. Um, Balance it, allow yourself to feel those emotions, allow yourself to be selfish and go out and get your nails done or get a haircut
Yeah.
on your own. You don't have to have your child with you. There are other people that can help you. And if it's not family, it can be friends. And if it's not friends, it can be someone who's doing it professionally.
Right. Yeah.
Always ways to do it and to enjoy it. And that's what we want. We want to enjoy our life. Motherhood doesn't
And
mean that.
yeah.
Begins.
And like it was really important. Well, my husband was really good at kind of pushing me to do stuff on my own as well. Like he's really amazing at seeing that I needed that. But it was still hard for me to leave her like the first afternoon, which is ridiculous because like she was fine. She was with her dad. Um, so, it doesn't mean like, oh, it's easy for everyone. You should just leave your child and go and do something fun. Like, no, it was a process for me as well. Like, it's hard to let go, but then you come back to what we've already talked about, like as a mom or as a parent, but I think especially as a mom with those hormones and you carried them for 9 months, like they were part of you. Like it's
They are.
just to have to, let go. It's really difficult, but it's also important. Like I knew it was important for me to, let her go, let her be with her dad so I could spend some time with my friends. But it was also hard. I was on my phone constantly. What is she doing now? Is she okay? And that's part of the process, and that's okay too. It's okay to feel, a bit anxious, and it's okay to be a bit nervous of letting them go without you for the first time, or even the second time, or even, the 10th time. It could still, sometimes I'm still like, oh, I don't know, should I go? My husband's like, yes, you should. Bye.
And the first time you send 50 messages, and by the 10th time you send two, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Allowing yourself the process of it. And
Yeah.
I love it. Marieke, amazing. Thank you so much for talking to us and, to me and explaining everything and how it all became to be a thing. And I love your journey. I think that you are inspiring women every day, even without you knowing it. And I love it. And I would definitely want you here as a sleep coach. Like, get over here. Please help me. But if someone else would like to do that, can you tell us, please, where can people find you and reach you?
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you, Viviane. That's very sweet. Yeah, so I have a website. It's www.babysleepcoaching.com. So it's quite easy. And you can book like a 15-minute free consultation on there, just to talk about like, hey, what is sleep training? I always like to get to know the parents a little bit, and for them to get to know me, because of course there needs to be a click. If they don't feel a connection with me, how can they trust me to work with their child, right? So I think it's very important to have that mutual connection and to, talk a little bit about what the issues are with their child, and, like how old, what, like I always like to get to know people a little bit. And then after that, we can make a plan on like how to go about it. I also have Instagram and Facebook, which is also baby sleep coaching, so it's easy. Yeah, where you can also send me a message if you like. Yeah, so for me, what is really important if I go on a sleep journey with parents is that everyone is feeling comfortable about it. And not just the parents, also the baby. You know, it should really be a combination of finding the right method that fits with the baby's character, the baby's age, but also with the parents and often the mom, with how far she's, you know, willing to go and what she is willing to do and what her pace is. Because if you want to do it more step by step because you just need that emotional headspace, that's completely fine. And that's really, you know, we can do that. You know, so that's also why the initial call is quite important because it gives me a feel of, you know, where are they in the process? And, you know, do they want just to like go for it and, you know, do it all at once? Or are they more like, you know, I'm trying to get ready, let's just do it slowly. Yeah.
Amazing. And both are okay, obviously. And
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Marieke. And yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I would love to talk to you more.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you. Thank you.
And yes, thank you so much for today. And I hope to see you again sometime.
Yeah, we will.
And that's it for today. I really hope you liked it. If you did, please hit the subscribe button now so me and you can share the real term on what sleep training means. If you're a mama or a sleep coach just like Marieke is, or you're a different type of professional working in the birth industry and you have a story you'd like to share with me, or you know of someone who has a story they'd like to share, please let me know either via Instagram, where I can be found under my name, Doula Viviane, or via my email address, which is birthwithviviane@gmail.com. I'll be waiting. That is it from me for now, and I'll see you next time. Bye!